My sister-in-law died horrifically and left her 2 kids without anywhere to go or anyone to take care of them. My husband wants to take them in, I don't, and he said I accept them or he will divorce me. Posted by u/MountainShadow769. My husband, 32M, and I, 28F, have been married for 2 years and together for 5. Until now, I would have said that we had the perfect relationship, but right now it seems like that's over, and I'm not sure who the jerk is, if anyone. I grew up in a really bad, abusive, and neglectful situation. I've been to therapy and done the work, but there are still some issues that are just going to be permanent, I think. The 2 relevant here are that I need to have a calm, safe living space that is mine to function, and I do not do well around children. I don't hate children, but I was forced into raising 7 siblings and step-siblings when I was still a kid myself, and I will never be responsible for another kid for as long as I live. I've had my tubes removed to make absolutely sure there will never be an oops. My husband has known this since the beginning and also does not want children. His family situation is also not great, but he's still involved with them, mostly for his mom and nephew's sake. About a month ago, my sister-in-law was murdered by her ex, who killed himself as well. The boys were visiting my mother-in-law, so thankfully they weren't in the house when it happened. Otherwise, I think they would be gone, too. It's horrific. My mother-in-law, the boys, and my husband are devastated. My sister-in-law was not my favorite person in the world. She had a lot of the same traits my abusers had, but nobody deserves that, and I'm trying to be supportive of their grief. The problem is that there's nowhere for the boys to go. They were staying with my mother-in-law, but her health is so poor that DHR decided that she's not stable enough to have custody. Their father's family doesn't have anything to do with them, which is a long story by itself. My husband has a younger brother, but he has substance use issues and isn't in a good place to take on 2 kids. That leaves my husband and me as the only real family placement option. My husband isn't thrilled about bringing kids into the situation, but he feels like he has to keep them out of foster care, which I understand. Here's the problem. I absolutely do not want these kids living under the same roof as me. It's a PTSD trigger, but also, they are, understandably for their situation, not the best behaved kids to start with. Add some hella trauma onto that, and those kids are going to need a lot of help. My husband swears that he will do everything for them, but I think he's being unrealistic. We got into a really nasty argument about it, and he said that this is a make or break moment for the marriage because he's not backing down, and he'll take the kids and divorce me if he has to. Our house was mine before we got married. I inherited it from my grandmother. I insisted on a prenup to protect it when we got married. My husband has a health issue that makes full-time work difficult, and he struggled at the best of times before we got married. If we split up, his chances of finding an affordable place to live nearby in the current market are not good. He's not quite disabled enough to receive disability. Frankly, if I and the house weren't part of the bargain, I'm not sure that DHR would place the kids with him. Where I might be the jerk is that after he threw the D word at me, I told him that in that case, he would need to move out of my house because he would no longer be welcome, go back to working full-time because I wouldn't be bankrolling an ex, and good luck taking care of 2 traumatized kids with his health, much lower income, and without stable housing. I think it hadn't occurred to him just how much he would lose access to, because we've always just shared without thinking about it. He's not speaking to me right now, and my mother-in-law called and read me the riot act for financial abuse and abandoning family. I feel for the nephews, I really do, but I am not the person those kids need right now, and I feel like I was really clear from the very beginning that I would never be okay taking care of kids or living with them. I think we're cooked either way at this point, but am I the jerk? /relevant comments. Downvoted commenter. So is the boy's father the one who committed this heinous act? If not, if it was her boyfriend, then the father needs to step up. Maybe you need to pursue the other family? What's wrong with them? This is a really difficult situation. I don't think I would be able to say no in your spot. How old are these kids? Ops response. It was the boy's father who committed the murder, so he's out of the picture. The short version is that he was cheating on his wife with my sister-in-law, and it blew up on them eventually. The wife made him choose, and he chose her. From what my sister-in-law said, his family refuses to believe they're his and told my sister-in-law to kick rocks when she approached them. Commenter 2. What did she approach them for? Ops response. She said she just wanted them to know their grandparents and family, but honestly, who knows what else my sister-in-law might have asked for. I took most of what she said with a chunk of rock salt. Downvoted commenter 3. I'm sorry, but yes, you're the jerk. There is literally nowhere else for these kids to go that won't inflict more trauma on them. You are the adult. You have all the power here. You can say what you want to be responsible for, what you want to do, what boundaries you want, you have all the power. The children have no power. They have no mother, no father, the only grandmother that is willing to have anything to do with them is unable to take care of them long term, and the only other person familiar to them has you refusing to help because you don't want to be responsible for another kid as long as you live. I am all for preventing that from happening, but these kids are effing here. They're born. Like you pointed out, they're actually a grandparent visit away from not being with us anymore. There is a difference between bringing a life into the world and into your situation, and this. And quite honestly, you should have been prepared for this possibility. If your husband was the only person in his family that was able to take the kids if anything happened to your sister-in-law, this was always a possibility. I have always known from the second my first nephew was born if something happened to my sister, the kids were mine. And let me tell you, my sister has issues, and I'm raising those boys. Co-parenting. You don't have to co-parent. It's so much easier that way. It all comes down to this. If I have to choose between your PTSD and inflicting more trauma on those kids, I'm choosing the kids. You're an adult. Get help. One more thing you have effing control over that the kids don't. Access to mental health services. Find ways to cope. Figure out what you're able to do without crashing out. And I swear to sweet baby Jesus, if you divorce your husband over this, you better stay divorced. Don't do this to someone else. Don't let someone else think you can be their rock and a person they can depend on, and F them over when they really need you. Those kids haven't been calling you auntie, have they? And you're one more person who's going to disappear from their life. Effing fabulous. Almost everyone has someone in their life that they're responsible for if a family member or friend passes. You deserve to be single if this is the crap you're going to do to those you love. Lord knows I hope I'm never loved that way. Ops response. There are no avenues for the kids that won't inflict more trauma, period. Foster care isn't the worst that can happen. I begged to be taken away when I was their age. The kids have 2 uncles and a grandmother who can't provide actual care for them. What happens when my husband has a severe flare-up and he's bedridden for days? What happens when his meds stop working and he's in pain and unable to function until they figure out something else? Being exposed to that will also traumatize kids. He or my mother-in-law could develop fatal complications at any time, and then who's stuck with the kids? As for me, I did a ton of therapy and meds, and this is as good as it gets. Some things cannot be unbroken no matter how much you want them to be. People need to understand that in the real world, trauma is sometimes a permanent injury and recovery is learning to live with it instead of damaging yourself further. My husband knew since our second date that there were never any conditions in which I would ever agree to have a child in my home or under my care. No exceptions, full stop. He made the decision to marry me knowing that was an immovable boundary. If he thought there was a chance he would ever need to take in his nephews, I feel like he was the one who needed to walk away. I don't mind taking care of him when he needs it, and I've been more of a rock for him than anyone else in his life. I can't stop him if he wants to jump off the rock and go drown, but the rock isn't going to follow him. Downvoted commenter 4. Foster care isn't the worst that can happen. Listen to the adults who aged out of foster care. The homelessness that happens once they age out, the missing children, the sex trafficking. Look up the foster care system and its flaws. It's not a miracle, and it is one of the worst case scenarios. You might have begged for it, but you have no clue what those who were in it went through. Ops response. I do listen to people who have been in foster care, and to be frank, all of the same things happened to me, but there were no resources available to help me get out of it at all. I was starved, beaten, essayed, and emotionally and physically tortured for years, with the additional weight of it being done by my own family, and no one would listen because my stepfather was a cop and my mom couldn't live without him. I was homeless. I almost died several times. There were no programs or caseworkers to go to for help because I wasn't in the system. The foster kids I know had social workers and a transition program to help them move into adulthood. Most of them were able to get money for college. It wasn't fun, sometimes it was traumatic, but they still had people to do oversight. My transition was getting beaten up and thrown out of a car, and even then I was too afraid to go to anyone because my stepfather was a cop and they would just put me down as a runaway and send me back. There is worse than foster care. There are cracks that people can fall into that make foster care look like heaven. Up to a similar commenter. How privileged you are to believe that death is the worst thing that can happen. I hope you never experience what life worse than death feels like. Many children experience horrific neglect and abuse with family members outside of foster care. Foster care is not as good as having a loving family home, but it's better than having an unloving family home. Just because you are self-abandoning doesn't mean I have to be. When you've literally starved for weeks at age 9 because there was never enough food in the house to feed everyone, and you had to give your food to the younger kids to stop them from crying or be beaten, you can talk to me about selfishness. If you were my friend and knew my history and were still reviled by me choosing myself, you would not have the option to stay friends. You would be free to go martyr yourself somewhere else. Commenter 5. Not the jerk. The whole thing sucks and is very sad. You knew your limitations and made them clear to others. You can't be expected to move out of your own house. Could your husband move in with your mother-in-law? Would her insurance cover some home care or compensate your husband for her care? Ops response. I'm looking into that actually because even if we split up, I don't want him to suffer. The problem is that a lot of welfare and social services have been cut, and he's one of the people that falls into the cracks of not being eligible for a lot of stuff that could help, but not physically able to handle a full-time job that would give him decent benefits. I have a social worker friend that I asked to look into what additional benefits they might be able to get, and whether it would hurt my mother-in-law's benefits if my husband were living with her. It's terrible that people have to make these kinds of choices. Commenter 6. I don't know where you live, but is there such a thing as survivors' benefits there for the children? I know that they exist in some countries. As for your husband, you say that he isn't physically able to handle a full-time job. What does that mean? Can he do a part-time physical job? Could he possibly do a full-time desk job? Ops response. He has an autoimmune condition that can get pretty bad when it flares up, and he has chronic pain from it. He works contracts part-time from home so that he can pace himself and rest, because when it kicks up, he genuinely can't do anything, even with meds. It's controlled as well as it can be. His mom has the same thing, just way more advanced. He does his best, and things work well with just the two of us. He was getting by before we moved in together, but I really don't think he could handle the kids and take care of himself. Op adds an edit to her post. There are a lot of responses, and I'm trying to get to them all. I'm taking a PTO day to deal with some of this stuff and get myself back together. As a lot of you have said, there's no way back from this, and I think I'm going to go ahead and accept that now instead of dragging it out. The trust is gone. I made an appointment with a lawyer this morning, and from what I've read, an uncontested divorce could go pretty quickly and smoothly if we don't squabble over money. I don't have any interest in screwing him over, but I also won't be screwed over. I hate it, I wish this wasn't happening, but I've worked way too hard for a stable life to flush it down the toilet. I'm going to freeze my credit and lock down the accounts today in case he or his mother get ideas, and have the talk tonight. I'm also about to call the case manager contact at DHR and explain the situation so it's on record, and they can start making a plan that doesn't include me as a part of the equation. I'm debating how much help I'm going to continue providing. I will continue to help my husband while he lives here, but I was also doing a lot to help out his mother with things her health makes difficult and to allow her to put her energy towards the kids right now, and I think that's going to stop since it's not appreciated, and the relationship is over. As far as the whole looking after family thing, I don't believe in family. Family has done more harm to me than anything else in this world and provided not a single benefit, so I don't put any value on blood or relations. I do what I can when I can for others, but I know in the same circumstance, none of these people would help me, either because they can't or they just wouldn't care that much. So just spare me the whole they're your family stuff, please. That word doesn't hit the same way for me that it does for you. I will update once I've talked to my husband and figured out a path forward. Thanks for the input even if some of you think I'm a monster. Op adds a second edit to her post. Well, that was a rough night. TLDR, now he doesn't want to divorce and wants to figure something out. Of course. The stress of the whole situation is pushing him into a flare, so I'm giving him some grace, but I told him that we won't go back to exactly the way things were before the D word now, no matter what happens. I don't trust him. He needs to sit down with the social worker, look at the facts, and make a call on his own. I have the lawyer's recommendations for an amicable divorce filing we can discuss if he decides on that route. His mom said some unforgivable things in her little tirade, so the things I was doing to help her stop. Whatever happens, I will make sure he has health insurance until he can make other arrangements. I would be willing to discuss all of this in counseling with him while we try to sort it out. For now, one of us is moving into the spare room, or he can go stay with his mom. He's upset, but agreed. It's probably going to take some time to get a resolution, but I will try to post again down the road once the situation settles out. Update 2 weeks later. People have been asking me for an update, and there were some forward developments before Thanksgiving. The bad news is that DHR decided my significant other's medical situation rules him out as a primary guardian for the kids. He wouldn't be able to adequately care for them during a flare. Same for his mom, they have the same condition, his is worse than hers, but hers is more advanced. The good news is that the social worker talked the paternal relatives into agreeing to a DNA test. They didn't believe that the kids were really brother-in-law's bio children, and he and sister-in-law were keeping the situation on the down low because he was married, so they never established legal paternity. DNA was a match, so the grandparents on that side are taking the kids. What that means as far as visitation for my significant other and mother-in-law is still being hashed out, but the whole thing has been de-escalated a lot, thanks to a really competent case manager. As far as the divorce, I'm going ahead with it and filing this week. He's moved back in with his mom. They're salty about it, but that's to be expected. I still love him and wish him the best, but I'm done. His family is too much drama, and I don't trust him the way that I did before this. Given that we were only married 2 years, and the house is mine from before the marriage and protected, it should be a clean break. While I miss him being here, I'm already feeling less stressed with him gone, and I didn't realize that had been creeping up on me for a while. I think I'm done with romantic relationships, at least for a good long while, so I'm going to focus on my career and some fun stuff I haven't had time to do since taking on a caretaker role. Thank you to those that offered support and advice. It sucks that any of this happened to begin with, but I think it's ending about as well as it could have at this point. I will be dropping contact with my ex's family, so I doubt I'll have anything else to update. /relevant comments. Commenter. Good for you. What condition does your ex have? I was guessing Ms. After what his mother said to you, I'd have been flat out done as well. You've shown these people nothing but kindness, and the moment you push back, they showed you who they truly are. His family isn't just drama. They're crapbirds. They're always going to be crapbirds. Ops response. They have MS and myasthenia gravis. He has the childhood onset variant, so his is a lot more debilitating, but his mom's has progressed more. It's managed as well as it can be, but I still wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Up to another commenter. To be fair, I think that sister-in-law was seriously mentally ill. Her behavior was similar to untreated bipolar disorder, and postpartum stuff really didn't help that any. The kids should have been put up for adoption. Between her and the father, they never had a chance. At least with paternity established and the secrets out, maybe they can have a relationship with their half-siblings and other relatives now and get appropriate attention and help. Downvoted commenter 2. I'm not saying that Ops should have taken in the children, or that they are a bad person. I'm saying the reaction to threatening divorce is bizarre. This wasn't a power move in a regular argument. The ex was absolutely right. This was a make or break moment in their marriage, and divorce would obviously be inevitable if they couldn't agree on this. Ops response. From my perspective, it's understandable that he would want to help his nephews. Heck, I want his nephews to end up somewhere safe. I just know that's not with me. I don't think this had to be a make or break moment personally, and forcing it to one was really poor judgment. To illustrate, I'm an EMS pilot. I get the final say on whether it's safe to fly. If I choose to fly when it's not safe, the risk of death for myself, my crew, the transports, and anyone we crash on is high. If I decide not to fly, sometimes the patient dies. That's just the realistic calculus of the situation. If the most beloved person in my life was dying and needed an airlift, but there's a lightning storm going on, I'm going to feel terrible and gutted about it, but we're still not going to fly because that would be insane. My ex made his hill to die on the equivalent of pressuring me to take a highly risky flight that could end very badly for everyone involved. He's not even the pilot, because he's incapable of caring for the kids either way. He's a bystander with no impact on the outcome, asking other people to go on a suicide mission so he doesn't have to feel bad. The feelings are understandable, but to me, even being charitable and assuming he wasn't trying to manipulate me, letting emotions actually trump reality in a genuine crisis instead of working with the parameters of the real situation is foolish, and I can't trust someone like that. Downvoted commenter 2. Hey Op, thanks for the reply and sharing your perspective. For the record, I agree with your risk assessment. If kids cannot be part of your life, then kids cannot be part of your life. A wrench was thrown in your marriage, and you are absolutely free to re-examine that marriage and make choices that serve you best. I just think it's naive of you to think this didn't have to be a make or break moment that would result in divorce if you two couldn't agree. It's wonderful that other family was found to take the kids in, complete strangers, but how did you imagine this would pan out if the kids did have to go into foster care and you and your ex remained together? That there would be no resentment? Family get-togethers wouldn't be icy, if your partner would even still be invited to join? You don't think he would be living with unhealthy amounts of guilt? Would you even want to be with someone who could so easily shirk himself of the responsibility of his sister's orphan children? Would you want him to live with that choice? Ops response. Everyone lives with uncomfortable emotions about things they couldn't or didn't do, that's just the human condition. We don't take the kids, he feels guilty for failing them. We do take the kids, he feels guilty for making my life far worse and more difficult, assuming that mattered to him. We broke up and he was granted the kids, guilt when he has another bad flare and can't care for them. We broke up and he doesn't get the kids, guilt for not being healthy enough to step in and for ruining what was a pretty good life situation for himself. As for his family, they're unreasonable and toxic. They continue being unreasonable and toxic no matter the outcome. There was a chance for a win condition here where we stayed together, went to therapy to work on feelings, set boundaries, took a break from his toxic family, and worked with DHR to find a better situation for the kids. It would have been really hard and uncomfortable, but literally every outcome would be. Instead, he's living with his toxic mom again, not working, partnerless, in the caretaker role for his mom when he can barely do for himself, doesn't even have the kids, and may or may not have access to them in the future, and is still feeling hurt and guilty. That's the really depressing thing in this to me. Commenter 3. Her whole story is kinda odd. Like, I sure as hell don't know any abused and neglected kids that got a whole damn house as an inheritance. Not saying she wasn't abused, but I just thought that stuck out as somewhat strange. I also get the feeling Op was happy to have a reason to divorce at the end of the day, due to her husband's disability. MS is no joke, and he would have needed a lot of help down the line. Op's response. I have a different father than my younger siblings, and the house came from my bio father's mom. He wasn't involved in my life, and my egg donor kept her away from me. She waited until I was 18 and tracked me down. As far as I'm concerned, she was an actual saint and the only person I feel positive about being related to. I'm not happy about the divorce, and I don't mind being a caretaker of an adult or elder. I'm capable of hiring a home health aide if my husband needed it at a certain point. I just will never be in the position of being a caretaker, guardian for children again, for their and my mental health and safety. Divorce sucks, and I have a lot of feelings about it, but it's the right thing to do in this situation, so the sooner I embrace the suck and power through it, the better off I'll be. Getting stuck in feelings and agonizing over it won't help anyone. Some feelings are best kept private. I'm not sure why some people need to see me upset and dithering about it instead of being proactive.